Hello for lesson number 4. I'll try and go through this one quickly. A lot of you are having trouble on this one. Best guess I can make is that it seems like most of you are only watching the videos up until a certain point. It is really important that you watch the videos all the way through because the first few are showing you how to get the formula, but it's the last 3 that actually show you exactly what the formula is that you're working with and how to use it. The formula you're working with for every single question in this lesson is going to be that the area is equal to half times one diagonal times the other diagonal. And remember that a diagonal is going to be extending from one vertex to the other. So one diagonal goes in one direction, and then the other diagonal goes in the other direction. So for number 1, I would see that the area should be equal to 1/2 times one diagonal. That's 6 plus 6 gives me a full diagonal of 12. And then the 2 plus 10 tells me the other diagonal is also 12. So my area is 1/2 times 144, which gives me an area of 72 units squared. This right here is the formula we're using for every single question. Okay, number 2. Uh-oh, it's frozen. Okay, there we go. Number 2. Remember, I start with that same formula. Area equals 1/2 times one diagonal times the other. I have one diagonal going in this direction. That 9 plus the 5 combines to give me a 14. In the other direction, I see that I have a 4 on the bottom. And what's important to realize is that I'm dealing with a kite here. And in a kite, if you remember, one of the diagonals is bisected. So if that bottom part is 4, this is 4, which makes that whole diagonal 8. So when I go and calculate now, the area is equal to 1/2 times 112. 8 times 14 is 112. And then when I multiply that by 1/2 or divide by 2, cut that in half, I'm going to get the area is equal to 56. And once again, we don't know the units, so it's just units squared. Number 3, we use the same formula again. You'll notice it's very repetitive in each one of these lessons. You're always dealing with the same formula over and over and over. So my area is equal to 1/2 times one diagonal times the other. One diagonal, in this case, is the 16. The other diagonal in this diagram is going to be the 20. So when I have 1/2 times 16 times 20, I'm really working with 1/2 times 320. And then when I cut that in half, I'm going to get my area equals 160. Once again, we don't know the unit, so it's just units squared. Now we use that formula again. Area equals 1/2 times one diagonal times the other diagonal. We're dealing with a rhombus here, and I can tell it's a rhombus because both diagonals are bisected, which means it's a parallelogram. Remember, both diagonals are bisected, making it a parallelogram. All 4 of the outside sides being congruent confirms that that parallelogram is a rhombus. Okay. So I have one diagonal consisting of 8 and 8, making that 16. The other diagonal consists of 15 and 15, making it 30. So I have 1/2 times 480. And when I cut 480 in half, I have an area of 240 units squared. Number 5, I wonder what formula I'm going to use. Area equals 1/2 times one diagonal times the other. Again, we're dealing with a rhombus, So that tells me that my diagonals are bisected. If this is 8, then this is 8. If this is 12, then this is 12. So I have one diagonal that's 8 plus 8, which is 16. I have another diagonal that's 12 plus 12, which is 24. So at this point, I have 1/2 times 384. And when I divide that 384 in half, I have an area of 192 units squared. Okay, 2 more questions, almost done. While these two change things up a little bit, I still start exactly the same way. Don't change things just because they're giving you different information. A formula is a formula. So if I start off with area is equal to 1/2 times one diagonal times the other, I realize, oh, well, they only gave me one diagonal. But that's because what they're asking you to find is the other diagonal. So in the end, we're going to find the length of this diagonal here. In order to find that diagonal, I need to not only know the other diagonal, but I also need to know the area, and I need to plug in for that area. So what I'm working with is 187.5 is equal to 1/2 times 15 times our missing diagonal 2. 1/2 times 15 I can simplify. I get 7.5 times diagonal 2. From here, I can divide 187.5 divided by 7.5, and I get that my diagonal 2 is worth 25 meters. Notice it's not meters squared this time. I'm not finding the area. I knew the area. I'm using that squared unit of measure to find my other diagonal, which is just a linear unit of measure. So let me know if you need help on number 6. But last question, number 7, again, just because they're giving you expressions does not change the formula. I still have 1/2 times one diagonal times the other. One diagonal is 6x plus 5. The other diagonal is 4x plus 8. And now I need to FOIL. My area is equal to 1/2 times, I get 6x times 4x gives me 24x squared. I have 6x times 8 is going to give me plus 48x. I have 5 times 4x gives me plus 20x. And then I have, I'll pick a different color here, and then I have 5 times 8 gives me plus 40. Now I go through and I combine like terms. Area is equal to 1/2 times 24x squared plus 68x plus 40. And when I multiply every single piece of this by the half, I get my final area as being equal to 12x squared plus 34x plus 20. And in this case, that's going to be feet squared. I don't know what x is, so that's the best I can give for that measure. Please, 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 please let me know if you have questions on this lesson. This seems to be the hardest one up to this point, so do not hold back your questions. I hope you're all doing well. Keep going strong. Move on to number 5. Watch the videos.